This is your number one radio station. Thank you for choosing our channel, Africa. My special guest tonight is a really gifted and amazing DJ. DJ Eddie Ed, also known as DJ Ide, is a bridge between continents. A New York City based DJ and cultural curator. Let me take a bit of a breath. My apologies. I had a flu the other day and it does not want to go away, but I'll get rid of it. As I was saying, our very special guest tonight is a DJ from the stateside, a cultural curator for over 30 years of rhythm in the house, one of the first to carry Kwaito music across the oceans. DJ Eddie Ed planted its heartbeat in Southern Africa and the United States when the world wasn't even yet listening to African music. From Central Park's summer stage in 2001, where he made history as the first Kwaito exclusive DJs to the halls of Harvard Business School and the United Nations. He sets weave Kwaito, world music, R&B, hip-hop, pop, reggae, you name it. In the studio, DJ Eddie Ed is a restless and relentless deck magician, crafting tracks like Joy of Tomorrow, Bazano, Sangoma, which we played earlier on today. He curates culture, opening doors for African sound to be seen, heard, and felt all over the world with massive, serious remixes and refixes. He is my very special guest tonight. Eddie Ed, how you doing?
Opportunity, and I feel I've arrived. Africa, we here. you know,
Yes, we are. Yeah, yeah. So, Ed, we've known one another for like 150 years. 30 years.
100%.
Yeah,
More than that.
more than that. And
Yeah.
and people don't know that right in the beginning, we used to hang out with Oskido, Bruce, before they even started getting into
Yep.
studios and recording, and
Yep. Yep.
we used to
Yep.
DJ with those fellas. That's like
Yep.
30,
I,
30 odd years
what?
back.
Yep. Easily. We
Yeah.
did Rotunda. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you. I know you're back in the States. You came into Africa for a couple of things, businessman as
Yep.
well. Tell me when you first played Kwaito music 30 years ago in the States, what did they say?
A lot of people liked it. To be quite honest, I think which I thought was very interesting. There's music, because quite a way, it's almost like a multi-genre in its own space. You have the stuff like the trumpet, what the trumpets did, and I think Bongo Muffin that was very authentic it had its own sound, a Kasi sound, and so on and so forth. And then you
Hmm.
have the stuff like, DJs at work did that were almost like they used to call that slow down house,
Yeah.
in the States. But people gravitated towards the original, authentic trumpies, bongo muffin, if you will, that
Mm.
the
Mm.
Jews type of stuff. That it
Yeah.
was a
Mm.
no-brainer. People were like, "What is this? Where can I get that?"
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
and then I'll be like, "Yeah, well, And at that time, I think we sort of migrated from the analog space to the digital space,
Mm.
which was also uh, a work in progress in its own right and discovery
Yeah.
for me, because you had to migrate into making mixed CDs instead of
Yeah.
making
Mm.
mixtapes to kind of distribute the music. And then I had the opportunity to open up for Bongo. It spread like wildfire in New York City that, the top execs or corporate worlds kind of basically found me and say, "Oh, yeah, uh, we need you to come and do a pre-opening for Bongo Muffin at Summer
Mhm.
Stage." So very interesting. I played with. I remember meeting Mark Ronson. I didn't know who he was then.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was. I'm like, oh, you meet Mark Ronson. I was like, yeah, okay, all right. And then I also met Basement Jacks.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
What a
yeah. So
guy.
I shared the stage with those guys, and I was like, whoa. But I didn't know who Mark Ronson was. Fast forward, later, I was like, oh, that guy, Lady Gaga. Okay, all right. But anyway,
Yeah.
I thought I'd tell you a
Yeah.
fun fact too.
Yeah. Fantastic. The thing though is, a lot of people don't realize that there's always been a hunger for African rhythm kind of music in New York City. I remember way back in the day there was Africa Bambata.
Oh yeah,
Chicago is the birthplace for house music with your Frankie
100%.
Knuckles into the States as a young DJ bringing the African vibe.
Yeah. Yes.
So, how do you best describe the way that you've managed to bridge African music and music from the States? What are the most important elements about Kwaito music and about African sound that work in America?
I would say so. Here's a misconception about music. Music is a universal language. It's the language you don't need a translator to for you to
Okay.
say what it means. It's a feeling. So again, if you know how to read the crowd, and also on the back end of music itself, it's actually mathematics because the numbers you're counting beats, da, 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 and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
so the mixing, if you understand it from that technical or architectural point of view, it makes it easy for you to blend. So I was one of the few people who was able to figure out what's called the open format. I think DJ Jazzy Jeff is one of the few people that does that. People kind of genre specific who come into your house. And I think to my part, we never listened to music that way because once music sort of became a business, things got curated and sort of siloed into R&B and hip hop, this and
Mm-hmm.
that. But if you go to anybody who has any device now that has music, I bet you're gonna run through all these different genres, you know.
Yeah.
So what I'm just saying is that the music is a universal language. Those who get it. But yeah, the critics would normally say, "Well, I don't understand what they're saying." I said, "I listen to radio. I can barely make out what It's a feeling. People forget
Yeah,
that,
true.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think the when I got to New York, the person who was popular was Fela. And which I
Mm.
thought was very interesting because Fela's music was like 15, 20 minutes a song. You play that one song for the most part, the whole, the whole session is over. And big shout out to
Yeah.
my Nigerian crew. Then they'll say, Uncle. I'm like, what? you know? So
Yeah.
all I'm just saying that music is a universal language. Bobra, you, Wamiri Makeba, Kaifo
Mm.
Simenya, these people already here. Fast forward to, I never, even people like who, Oliver Mtugudzi, Thomas
Yeah.
from coming here. And like, I remember growing up in ZM in 1977, they were coming up.
Yeah.
Fast forward to the
Yeah.
90s, these people were able to were global phenomena. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, sometimes music is the test that stands the test of time. So
Yeah.
I think as long as we understand that now we're more globally connected, you can kind of put stuff on social media and so on and so forth, which is designed for artists, not for. I think for DJ platforms is sort of like ins and out. It's still not well designed for that particular space, because that's what when you go to clubs, people play music like it's a mixtape, if that makes sense. But
Mm.
there are very few platforms that allow you to do that. You get into DRMs and so on and so forth. So it makes it a little bit difficult to navigate that to sort of space, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now you've been all over the place. I mean, you played at the Harvard Business School. You played for the United Nations. How do you curate a set? How do you put a set together for Harvard Business School? I mean, what do you play?
Okay, so the Harvard Business School, they have what's called the African Business something something. I can't remember it. So it's mostly African students who are there. that you basically paying for. But the crowd is anybody at the end of the day. So most of the time, which I thought was very interesting, once they find out that you're the DJ, for the most part, I'll get, oh, sukus, or do you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Afro beats. So you kind of get that, but these are things we're already playing within the scenario. So for me, I'm a feeler. I'm a different type of a DJ. So there's certain things that I know, just to use that as an example, if you get into a party, if you play Night Fever, or now if you play the Jay-Z song,
Yeah.
or Pharrell, people dance from that. Then automatically from that, for me, I feel the crowd. I can't explain how that happens. It's almost like I'm a vessel. So it's a
Yeah.
feeling, and this has been happening since I started DJing. I would get people. Some people don't take requests. I'm kind of sort of, if it just depends, as long as it's not destructive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people. For me, my experience was that every time I want to play a song, somebody will come and request, and I said either the song is on the next deck without me, so you have to be in
Yeah.
sync. I can't explain that in a way that somebody it makes sense. That's what I'm saying. So I feel like I'm sort of a vessel in that space. It's not
Okay.
my doing, I'm just following an energy that's there, that exists.
Yeah. One of the things you've really gotten into nowadays, I know you've done a lot of remixes for some classical African tracks and sounds. You've gone full into production. We played a couple of your songs today. Is this your
Yes.
first EP? Yeah. What are you working on and what is the vibe? What are you going to call your sound?
Actually, I live in the open format. So I believe that being creative, sometimes there are people who specialize. I'm not one of those. So, and also the misconception of that the world is so big and there's so many lanes. I'm not competing. I'm not looking to compete with anybody. I'm just
Mm.
creating things that I feel, that I know people would love to listen to and groove. And I think this. Me and Audrey started as dancers, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So from that,
Yeah.
from that automatically sort of gives me a okay. So if you listen to most of my music, there's a groove to it. I'm not the sentimental music, so on and so forth. Although I did a soul song, that's another thing. But also there's a vibe there, if you will. So all I'm
Yeah.
just saying is that I do open formats. I can't sing. I did a collab. There's Joy of Tomorrow. I did a collab with uh girlfriend. She grew up here, but she's actually Montana.
Mm.
We did it over COVID. So we basically start just sending files back and forth, back and forth. I sent her the
Yeah.
tracks. She said, I like this one, blah blah blah, and we worked on it. And then before you know, we had that track. So all
Mm.
this stuff is available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever your platform you get your music from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as music creation, it's a feeling. I just wake up and I have a vibe. But sometimes there's nothing. I'm like, okay, all right,
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
DJing, for the most part, that's where a lot of ideas come from.
Okay.
You're like, okay, there's something here. You know,
Yeah. Mm.
but you also hear different. And so the mixing part is what that blending part creates its
Mm.
own vibe. A lot of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
don't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things, I've been in the same kind of environment and business with you for a very, very long time. I know that people are always excited when you put your hands on an old track and you go out and you remix it. Last time I heard you did an amazing remix to Yvonne Shaka Shaka's track.
Yes,
How was the
yes.
response? Yeah,
That's bananas. And I want to say the shout out to Auntie Yvonne. So
yeah,
that I didn't this is one of those songs in the US. You have a sort of like a global perspective.
mm.
Uncomport is one of the biggest African songs ever. I don't care whether it's white or black. I'll tell you a funny story. I played a
yeah,
corporate party, which I mostly do nowadays. I played a
yeah,
corporate party, not that this matters, but so that you understand people who are happening and so on and so forth. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. The CEO got on top of the bar dancing. So
yeah,
the following time when we did the next event, they're like, dude, please don't jump. You are a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Don't do that. So music takes you to a different space without you realizing. That's the power of music. So
Yeah.
it's just being able to tap onto that energy. And I think as DJs, you experience certain things that the people don't see. You know. So when you play, you get a vibe like, okay, all right, there's something here. I
Yeah.
think, let's figure out another way to sort of reinvent this experience.
In the States right now, is Afrobeats bigger than Amapiano? What do you
Oh,
reckon?
okay. Okay, please don't get me started on this. Is how much time do you have? So so I'll say this to my frustration. Um Basically I'm a piano is a child of Kwaito.
Yeah.
Just to use that as an example. But I think why, because there's the other part we also like. It's actually a business rather than it is entertainment at the end of the day.
Mm.
So our business service side was a little slow. Also, the numbers don't add up. Nigeria
Okay.
has I think 200 million people,
Yeah.
250 million people. That's a third of
Yeah.
America's population. So
Yeah.
those numbers do a lot of space, like
Okay.
in terms of development. And also, here's another thing I think Africa has to be proud of. Africans are the most educated people in the world, period.
Yes.
If you take a stone, you hit somebody, might likely hit a doctor, a professor, or somebody very educated. So
As
all I'm
as
just saying is that
yeah.
say the
Yeah. They
business
said
aspect,
yeah.
they were able to harness that. The Afrobeats guys were a little bit more organized, because I saw that movement, but they kind of also extrapolated from where we started. You know what I'm saying? But I extrapolated for the guys who were before me as well. So it's not
Okay.
it's a chain reaction.
Yeah, Africa totally representing internationally, globally. Like you've mentioned, there are a lot of African doctors, lawyers, and business people in the States. Kudos. Well done to Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is the most sought after sound in the States now? Because a lot of people are saying hip hop is dead. Is it dead? Has
I mean,
Drake brought it back
so,
up?
so okay, do I need to say that?
Yeah.
Drake, Chris Brown, they all have Afro beats. That even I'm up here on the music. Automatically, that tells you things have shifted. I remember in early 2000 or late 99, having phones with my cousins and so on and so forth. We're talking about, because I just came like, what are you trying to do? I'm like, I brought this music, pop. They're like, dude, crazy,
Yeah.
man. Nobody gonna listen to that. So and then we were sort of trying to, and again, we're caught up in numbers trying to look at the trends. They were like, oh, at that point in time, it was just New York city music, hip hop, period. You could go to the West Side, whatever. So when you think about it, even in South Africa, Zim, the experience
Yeah.
was just, it was New York City or East Side,
Yeah.
music,
True.
just
Mm,
basically. Yeah. So
mm.
on the radio, that's what was being played. So you can imagine, it's like, at that point in time when you tell somebody this could be the next, no. Now I don't even have to say they play this stuff on radio. People have won
Yes.
global
Yeah.
awards, yada yada. So, the music gets fused. I think it has created its own balance. I think the gatekeepers kind of try to do a good job of kind of maintaining that so they could funnel through that the way they needed to. But the I guess the universe spoke louder than that. They sort of broke the mold and said this is the way things happen. Now you turn on to any what's called pop station, this
Yeah.
stuff gets played. Yeah, it's not,
Mm.
So Africa also has arrived here. Just FYI.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, in other words, African music you get to listen to it on some of the mainstream radio stations in the stateside today, right? That's kind of
Hundred
interesting.
percent, hundred
Yeah,
percent. Yeah, like yeah, your Tyler, your Davido,
you know, yeah,
all yeah. So before, I'll use this as an example. Before even when we came, so we go to these obscure parties, DJ Babito, the guy who studied hip hop. You go to his gigs, you play the Miriam Makeba, Pata, you play the fella or Manu Dibango. So you hear those, but it's a very niche market. It's like you went I don't know. So I'm in like in the middle of nowhere, somewhere where they play. You have to understand that certain vibe for that particular. But now it's mainstream. It's and I laugh because when I first got here, they used to say you have an accent. now everybody now everybody has an accent. People don't say, "Oh yeah, you're from Africa."
Yeah.
And I think I want to mention something you mentioned a little earlier on. So there is a need. I think you'll talk about African, but there's something because when you think about, I'll go back to slavery and shout out to the youth there. I've forgotten to shout that part out
Yeah,
as well.
true.
So in
Yeah.
terms of, yeah, so in terms of understanding who we are and identity for the African Bambata, the X clan and so on and so forth. These are
Yeah.
people who these are things we are born with. It's like at home, somebody wakes up and say, "This guy is different. I'm not sure, but he's onto something that's out of this world." We have
Okay.
people like that in general. So
Okay.
the Bambadas were able to realize that. I think it came out of suppression. It's just a way of liberating themselves and a way to connect to some place because everybody comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
But these people had applied, if you will, these things were sort of disconnected and was suppressed. So that was, when you think about it, I always say hip hop is $1 trillion business now. When it first
Yeah.
started, who started, you know, he's still alive. The
Mm-hmm.
Jamaican guy, what am I forgetting his name? Pardon me. He started in the park. He's still alive. They formed, it's $1 trillion. They formed
Yeah.
organizations to sustain that sort of stuff. And I
Yeah.
think even us as Africans, I think that we need to look at that as a business. Art is our business. It's a way of life to us, but I think we take that for granted.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I hear you. Ed, man, thank you so much for joining me tonight out of the stateside. It's always a pleasure. When you coming back to Africa?
Very soon we'll keep you posted. We're working on a couple of things.
Okay.
I'm also started working on digital art. That's
Hmm.
another space. So I don't know if you can see the background that I have. That's something
Yeah.
that I did.
Okay.
So there's a lot we can do or learn.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely keep watch this space. We'll be talking.
Hey, DJ Eddie Ed out of the stateside, one of the greatest African DJs ever exported out of the motherland. Thank you so much. This is Channel Africa.